to start us off, I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land in which we meet today. I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. With that in mind, my name is Jeremy Ferrugia. Nice to be with such an incredible panel to discuss financial tech and trading today. So thank you for joining us. We're going to have a series of questions. And keep in mind that more students will be flowing through as time goes on. So with this in mind, I'm just going to introduce the panel. To start us off, we have Hans Raj, joining us from Commonwealth Bank of Australia, who is the Executive Director, Global Head of STIR. From there, we have Amon, a graduate quantitative trader, joining us from SIG or Susquehanna. Thanks for joining us, Amon. And as well as that, we have Scott McKenzie joining us from Optiver. He is the Chief Technology Officer at Optiver. Thanks for joining us, Scott. And as well as that, we have Ava Go from Bloomberg, who is Chief of Talent Acquisition over there. Nice to have you here on the panel, Ava. Fantastic. So to kick us off, what I'd like to do is I'll be asking a series of questions to each of our panelists. And to start us off, I might pass it off to yourself first, Hans Raj, in relation to just to introduce yourself and describe what your organization does.
Of course. Hi, everyone. So my name is Hans Raj. I am responsible for the short-term interest rates trading business at Commonwealth Bank of Australia. It is a sub-business under the fixed income and currencies remit, and as part of our jobs, what we do is provide currency and interest rates hedging solutions to clients. What that entails is providing liquidity to counterparties across a wide spectrum, whether it be retail or whether that be corporates or institutional investors who have cross-border capital flows that need hedging against volatility in currency, and also ultra-short-dated interest rates where central bank policy making has an impact on where the yields are. Commonwealth Bank, while it is a large retail bank, also has a pretty active markets business, which is where our remit sits. And a large sort of bulk of client interest that we entertain comes on the back of the organization at large and client relationships that we have spanning different business verticals. Prior to Commonwealth Bank, I was a trader at Deutsche Bank with the Sydney office, where I was running a similar risk mandate. And I have an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. I did a concentration of courses in digital image processing and signal processing in general.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Hans Raj. Scott, would you be able to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Optiver?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Scott McKenzie. I'm the Optiver. Optiver is a trading company that specializes in what we call market making. And that means we also heavily use technology. I come from a background of a software developer. So I actually started as a graduate at Optiver 14 years ago. So that's been quite a long journey for me. And what we do is, so we do this thing called market making, which is basically we're often invited by exchanges to provide and improve prices across thousands of products on exchanges across the world. So there's a very heavy technology and algorithmic component to that, which is where we specialize. We're a global company with offices, or our larger offices based in Sydney, Chicago, and Amsterdam.
Fantastic. Thanks, Scott. Ava, would you be able to give us an insight into yourself and Bloomberg, please?
Sure. Thank you so much, Jeremy. So hi, everyone. Good to meet all of you today. So as Jeremy has mentioned already, I'm Ava, and I'm actually based in the Singapore office. So I have a dual role. First, I manage the Asia Pacific Talent Coordinator team. I'm also as well a recruiter for the other part, focusing on recruiting for Australia and Singapore. So I've been at Bloomberg now for about 1.5 years. And prior to this, I was at a US investment bank for about 13 years. So Bloomberg is a 40-year-old, 170 offices globally. So our company is a financial, data, software, media provider. So basically, we are offering clients a suite of enterprise solutions to create workflow efficiencies or to help them to make critical business decisions about risk, investment, markets. So we're basically at a crossroad of the finance and technology. So from an entry-level perspective, we are looking for individuals who are interested in the financial markets, wants a client-facing role to do platform sales, or be a consultant or a client to help grow the business of Bloomberg. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ava. Amon, would you be able to share something about yourself and Susquehanna, please?
Sure. Thanks, Jeremy. So I'm a graduate quantitative trader at SIG. And prior to joining SIG, I studied maths and computer science and then worked in software for a bit. So SIG is a proprietary trading firm, which just means that we trade with our own money and we build and use our own technology. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Amon.
Yes.
From here, we'll jump into our second question, which is around what is the most important piece of information or advice you'd give to students aspiring to work for yourselves within the financial tech sector? Scott, I'd like to pass this off to yourself first.
Sure. So I'll start off by saying I'd say that the trading industry is a fairly niche industry. So the first thing I'd like to call out, I guess, is it's quite different to the broader finance industry. It's a fast-paced, growing industry with lots of interesting and bright people. And yeah, I definitely see at the moment there's a lot of growth in this industry. Now, once we start to sort of zoom in a little bit on success here and advice on it, I think the most important thing really is to be curious about the problems we're trying to solve. So as engineers, it can be easy to maybe get our head kind of in the code rather than thinking about the overall problem that we're trying to solve by coding something up. And so we really aspect.
Thanks for that, Scott. Ava, would you be able to give us an insight into an important piece of information for students looking to apply for Bloomberg?
Yeah, sure. So I guess from a student perspective who's aspiring to work in an organization within this sector, I think first of all, do not limit yourself based on the major or degree that you'll be graduating from. So it sounds pretty straightforward, but I do see a lot of students asking the question, oh, I'm not studying this major or that major, am I still eligible? So I think do not limit yourself based on that, but really ask yourself, what is your area of interest and what do you want to focus on? So narrow it down by the type of role, industry, and after that, start thinking on how you want to demonstrate your interest in that area. So it can be through finding out more, through like attending events like this, so you can understand all the different roles within technology, fintech, or joining student societies, taking particular courses that are relevant to the thing that you want to do, keeping up to date with the market, economic situation, and even speaking to, let's say, your seniors who are already doing that role or in that particular company, just so you can get insights on what is critical or necessary for that role. So get all those information as much as you can as you are working out your career, what you want to do, and then after that, focus on it and look for opportunities within it to gain the exposure.
That's amazing. Thanks, Ava. Amon, would you be able to give us an insight into some advice for any students looking to sort of work in this sector?
Sure. So I think if you are interested in this sector, one of the most important things is to express that interest by being curious. And that just means like asking a lot of questions and staying engaged. The second thing would be to practice your maths and your interview answers.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Amon. Hansraj, would you be able to give us an insight for some advice in students looking to join the sector?
Sure. So, I mean, my sector is it's a more traditional markets business where we have a large group of clients who traditionally come for currency and interest rate hedging. Speaking from that perspective, I think one of the things that you would expect students to have, or which we really look for, is intellect as expressed in terms of math. I mean, to us, it is important that you be able to appreciate markets as a large um, redundantly defined linear system. I mean, there are prices everywhere, and you have to find the best price from a lot of available prices to be able to create the best quality price for your clients. Beyond that, I think the other thing is you have to have the appreciation that there is more to it than the math itself. You need to, even if you do not have a background, it is expected that you get on top of your current affairs, try to build an interest in terms of what is happening everywhere in the world, where is the macroeconomic picture evolving, and you need to have or you need to cultivate an interest in what's happening around the world and what that can do to markets, or what that can do in terms of central bank policy action. So that interest needs to be cultivated naturally. Doesn't have to be through coursework, doesn't have to be through a specific program that you go through. It's just something you have to build over time, and you need to have an interest and see how it sort of impacts markets.
That's some great advice. Thanks for that, Hansraj. Next question that I'm going to pose to the panel is, what is your organization looking for in an application? And what specifically do students need to show to progress to the next round? Ava, I'd like to pose that to yourself first, if that's okay.
Yeah. So for us, okay. So for us, we look for individuals who indicate an interest in finance, fintech world, and has it sounds really broad, but transferable skill sets to the role we are hiring. So let's say for the Australia office, we're looking for people who can help us do the platform sales. So you must have an interest in client facing. You must have an interest in doing sales, managing clients, like be a consultant basically as well to our clients from this perspective, and understanding the financial markets, the technologies that's involved. So those are some of the basic things that we try to look out first. And if we do invite you back for interview, we will like to assess a bit of what is your level of finance interest, right? Most importantly as well, your understanding of this role, the company, the products that we are offering, and also the motivation for this opportunity. So in addition to all of this, I think most companies will also want to look for skill sets such as curiosity, driven, resilience, problem solver, good communicator. So all those will be, I think, like a consistent thing that people will generally look out for.
That's great. Thank you, Ava. Amon, would you be able to give us an insight into what SIG is looking for in an application and what a student like yourself needed to show to progress to the next round?
Sure. So two of the main things that the interviewers are looking for are you to be good at maths and to be a clear communicator. And those two things are really what they try to assess during the interviews. I would say another thing that they're looking for is, as I said earlier, just a general interest in the field. So like continue to ask questions and demonstrate your interest. And yeah, those are the three things.
Awesome. Thanks, Amon. Hansraj, would you be able to give us an insight to what CBA is looking for in an application and what students need to show?
Sure. So we have a pretty active market summer analyst program, and as part of that, what we look for is candidates who are passionate about markets. It is my understanding that the students on this forum are generally from a STEM background, but it is not necessary that you have a finance background. That's something you can acquire on the job somewhat, and through a lot of reading, which your mentors would guide you towards. Apart from that, I think, as other panelists have mentioned, you need to have willingness to learn. I mean, it is a pretty active environment. Think of it like a white-collared factory floor environment where you find yourself starting off at a relatively junior level, but you will be given responsibilities pretty early on, responsibilities that will have monetary implications for your desk, which you're working with right from day zero. You need to have a revenue-focused acumen. Whatever you're doing, you need to be able to build an appreciation for how that gets you to being able to monetize the franchise and add value for the bank as well as for the clients.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Hansraj. Scott, would you be able to give us an insight into what Optiver is looking for and what students need to show to progress to the next round?
Yeah, sure. We're looking for a range of roles across both the trading and technology space. So the trading space is maybe more geared towards the maths and the decision making in the moment. And the technology space is now more about the strong engineering mindset we expect in our people. So I'll talk a little bit more to the technology space, but I'm happy to take questions on the trading side. We do a lot of distributed systems development, and so we're sort of deploying a globally distributed system around Asia. So in order to make that work, we basically are after people who have strong engineering foundations about how a system operates at scale and an interest in the problems that system's trying to solve. I'd say that's the key thing. Maybe similar to what other people said, we don't have any prerequisite for a finance understanding coming into the company. I started without any understanding in finance. Yeah, it's more about then the approach, and for someone who wants to come in and learn about the problems we're trying to solve and apply that engineering knowledge. The last thing I'd say is we're generally on the lookout for people who are always looking for sort of growth and want to be challenged in a role that they're coming into, and that they bring a level of like being humble and pragmatic to the way they approach that.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Scott. Next question I'll pose to you first, Armon. And this is for students who land a job with you. So Sig, in this example, what advice would you give them to survive and thrive within their first year? And as well as that, what shouldn't they be doing in their first year?
Yeah, so not to repeat myself, but I think like one of the most important things is that you come across as engaged, and that means like making use of all the resources you have around you at SIG. So you'll have like a mentor trader, and you'll have like a buddy, and so just always ask them questions about whatever you don't understand. I guess like the biggest thing not to do is to be quiet, because then they'll either think you understand or think you're uninterested. And the second biggest thing to do would be to form like good, strong relationships with your fellow grads, because you guys are going to spend a lot of time together in the next year, and you really become like a team which supports each other. So that's it.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Amon. Hansraj, would you be able to give us an insight into the advice you'd give to a student who's looking to survive and thrive in their first year? What they should and what they shouldn't do?
Sure. So there's something interesting that the CBA Markets program has started recently, which I could touch upon in this context. We have opened it up for students who come through the internship program and want to start right away, even if they're in their final year of university, on a 2 or 3 day a week program if they want to. So you have that flexibility. You can start earlier if you want to, get wired in much quicker than other programs will offer it. As part of that, obviously the expectation is during the first year that you try to learn as much as you can. You interact across different businesses, while you will have a desk that you'll be allocated to, and you will be given a P&L related remit pretty early on. The expectation would still be that you build relationships across different verticals. So, for example, if you're in trading, it would be expected that you cultivate relationships with sales, with the quant teams, with the risk teams, with basically every single division that you have day-to-day interaction with. And apart from that, I think again, you just need to be hungry, and you need to cultivate that appreciation for what macroeconomics and current affairs can do to your business and how you can try and moderate it.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. Scott, would you be able to give us an insight into some advice that you'd give to students to survive in their first year, and what shouldn't they be doing?
Yeah, sure. So the first year at Optiver is all about kind of growth and learning. And so what we'll do is we'll pair you up with senior engineers. And so that exposure, I think, is very valuable, and it's worth taking the time to focus more on growth than delivering a specific product. So I think that's the main thing that we're after. So that also answers the reverse of what not to do. Don't focus too much on trying to get the specific thing over the line. I would focus more on the why. You know, what are we trying to do, and why would the engineer sort of have that opinion on doing it this way versus something that you have, and have that discussion and debate, because I think that's the easiest way to learn. So I would say that's definitely my biggest tip for the first year.
Love it. Thank you, Scott. Ava, would you be able to give us an insight around some tips for the first year?
Yep, sure. So maximize the training that we'll be providing you. Take time to understand the process and the value of our products. So regardless of whichever role you're at, I mean, Bloomberg on its own, because we sort of at the center, right, of like the finance industry, where we provide market intel, market insight platforms to different players. So take time to understand all the different kind of market players, what are some of the things that they look for, what are some of the things that they need, and then of course understanding and combining that with the value of the products that we are offering. So that will help you to build a really good base. In addition to that, I would say, similar to what everyone else has been saying, ask questions, be proactive, network, and enjoy what you're doing, right? And on the other end, what you shouldn't be doing, don't feel like you need to work alone or you need to stand alone, that you need to prove how good you are by doing everything by yourself. We thrive together as a team. We grow together as a team, and when you support one another, I think that you will realize you will gain a lot more as well. So just network, grow together, and ask questions.
Love that. That's great, Ava. Love the team building aspect as well. So the final question that we have for the panel, well, the sort of preconceived questions anyway, is essentially, why should students apply for your organization? So this is obviously one of the largest questions, which I'm sure many students are very curious about. So Hansraj, if you don't mind, would you be able to kick us off in telling us why students should apply for the Commonwealth Bank?
So if you're looking for a traditional markets analyst program, I think CBA does have one of the best programs on offer, whether it be through the rotations that we offer, or whether it be through the early responsibilities that we provide. Apart from that, the markets business that we run here at CBA is one of the most profitable ones in the region on a per seat revenue basis. And also we regularly rank in the top panels when it comes to taking on large risk units and helping clients get ahead of their hedging requirements.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hansraj. Scott, would you be able to give us an insight into why students should apply for Optiver?
Yeah, I think Optiver has a lot to offer engineering talent, basically. We've got a very strong kind of open and collaborative culture, which I think stands out within the trading industry. We've got this strong engineering base here, so there's lots of engineers that everyone will get to learn off, and that'll give you some very quick feedback. There's lots of growth opportunities that come through that. So we'll just keep giving you kind of more areas that you can learn about. And that means that you'll constantly be challenged coming here, get the opportunity to work with great people and who will challenge you to also become better at what you do. And I think that's a huge amount to offer people.
Fantastic. Thanks, Scott. Ava, tell us why our students here today should apply for Bloomberg.
Yep. So if you want to start your career in a global leading company that provides good training, long-term career opportunities, client-facing from the get-go, making an impact to the financial market, then Bloomberg is the place for you. So we have a whole different range of roles. I think to sort of indirectly answer, I think, Rebecca's question as well. So in the Australia office, we do have the analytics and sales role, but outside of that, within APAC, we have engineering role, data management role as well. So there's a whole range of roles that you can consider across Bloomberg if you're interested in finance, technology, and for sort of like suitable skill sets for different people.
That's great. Thank you, Ava. Amon, give us an insight as to why students should apply for a role at SIG.
So the trading floor at SIG is a very dynamic and fast-paced place. So you'll definitely face a lot of challenges, and you'll be surrounded by a lot of people who are smarter than you. And I think like these things will really push you to grow at quite a rapid pace. And secondly, I think the graduate program is quite well structured at SIG. So there are like a lot of resources that are thrown towards the graduate program, from like poker classes to lectures to like senior mentors and talks. So yeah, I think it's a really valuable program.
Sounds great, Amon. Thank you so much for sharing. So we have had quite a few questions come through in the Q&A section. I don't want to be putting any really specific questions to our panelists, as all of our sort of panelists and the companies they represent will have booths afterwards. So following this sort of panel finishing in the next 3 minutes or so, you'll be able to jump into a specific booth to speak with representatives from these specific employers, and you'll be able to pose those specific questions then. For the sake of this particular panel, we had a pretty inquisitive question come through based around, for the majority of the students here today that have joined us, they're coming from a tech-focused background. And so for them to get an insight into financial markets, what would be a great source of information for students to learn more? So I'd like to just pose that to the entire panel if someone would like to sort of jump on that.
I could take that one. I think we do have a representative as well. So like Bloomberg.com is pretty much the best spot to start off with. I mean, there is a fair bit that is there on the website itself, and it is pretty well ordered. And once you start reading and once you start seeing what's out there, it gives you a pretty good sense. If you're looking at the maths that goes into fixed income and currencies in particular, there's a lot that we do with on the quantitative side in terms of representing interest rate markets with a term structure. That obviously on the more quantitative side, if you have an interest, there's a fair bit out there from Open Gamma, from Wilmot forums that you can look at, which are all freely available open resources. But yeah, I think the quantitative aspect you can be sort of sensitized to once you start on the job. I think it is more important from market's perspective to have the appreciation for what macroeconomics can do for your book.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that one for us, Hans Raj.